Members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, all following this meeting via social media, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, to all a very good morning. I welcome you to the continuation of this public meeting of Parliament. This is public meeting number 9 for today, Tuesday, January the 14th, 2025. Of course, at this time, I welcome all of the members of the Council of Ministers who are here with us this morning. We have the Prime Minister, the Minister of VROMI, Minister of ECYS, we have the Minister of Finance, we have the Minister of TIAD, we have the Minister of VSR, and we are awaiting the arrival of the Minister of Justice. We have established members, a quorum of 12 members. Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have not received any notices from members or on behalf of members prior to this meeting, and thus I ask if any member wishes to make a notification at this time. I don't see the need for such, so we can continue with the agenda point for today, which, as I mentioned, is a continuation of the public meeting number 9, which was started yesterday, and we dealt with the previous agenda points, the 3 previous agenda points for this meeting, and started with the handling of the draft budget for the country 2025. This, members of Parliament, is your incoming document number 371, and it is National Ordinance here at Parliament number 182. I want to mention once again that during this public meeting, I will allow the usage of interruptions, and this discretion to allow the interruptions is up to the President of Parliament, and thus I ask you to work along with me as we try to get as much as we can out of the interruption possibility, but at the same time in such a manner that the meeting still flows and especially the ministers have an opportunity to finish their thought, their answer, and before we go through the interruptions or too many interruptions at the same time. Let me put it that way. As I remind the members of Parliament that the intention of the interruption is brief remarks that members of Parliament feel they should make based on what a minister is saying. Of course, you can do so in order to seek clarification of something that has been said by a minister, to challenge assertions, so things that are said, if you wish to challenge them, and also to give additional information to something that might have been said or brought forward by the minister. But again, it is about the brevity of it and no long introductions if it is a question or an assertion. So as I mentioned, we will ensure that the interruptions allow the good flow of the meeting nevertheless, and we will exercise, I request that, parliamentary decorum in the meeting, no disorderly interruptions or offensive interruptions. Members will be allowed 3 interruptions per agenda point, and of course you know from where these interruptions are to be made. So we go over to the agenda point, and just briefly introduction to where we are right now. And the budget was received by Parliament on the 11th of December 2024, and we had central committee meetings on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of 2024. The necessary reports have been made, and based on the meetings of the Central Committee, was sent to the government, and we received from the government a so-called nota naar aanleiding van het verslag. Members of Parliament are in possession of that complete report, so the questions and comments by members of Parliament in the final report, as well as the answers given by the government in their nota naar aanleiding van het verslag. We also have received a memorandum of modification from the government, which is registered on the IS 447. This is government's own amendment to its draft budget. So we continue where we left off yesterday. All ministers have given the presentation of their ministry, and now today, of course, members of Parliament will be given the opportunity to pose their questions and comments on the draft budget 2025, and the ministers will thereafter answer the questions posed by members of Parliament. It is important to mention that the speaking time for the members of Parliament is 90 minutes in the first round and 45 minutes in the second round. We are expected to break for lunch from 1 to 2, and later in the evening another break will be from 6 to 6:30. And we hope that at 9 o'clock we can adjourn after having covered quite some ground. I hope we can cover quite some ground during the day of today. As I mentioned yesterday, it is the intention that we also for this meeting carry out what we call a list of commitments, toezeggingen as made by the government ministers, and then anything promised in the meeting will be noted and followed up on from the Council of Ministers. So I think, members, that I have sufficiently introduced where we are right now. And according to the speakers list, this being a public meeting, members have to sign in to express their wish to speak to the topic. And I already have 2 members who have done so. And I wish to give the floor in first instance to MP Ludmila de Wever. MP de Wever, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chair. Thanks. Let me start over again. Good morning, everyone. I want to start off here today, Chair Lady, stating that, just because you are here, whether you're part of coalition, whether you're over there, doesn't mean that you defend everything at all costs. And what I mean by that, in the fact is, just like the Minister of Finance yesterday stated, that this is one of the most important tasks that we have as members of Parliament, is to review and approve the budget, because this is what allows the Council of Ministers to do their job, and everything else, every other entity related to it, to do their job for the people of this country. And given the importance of this document, I want to make sure that what we receive is updated and accurate. And once again, before we start, I wanted to make sure that the budget that we are going to approve will have all accurate figures. So again, I bring attention to the fact that in our uitgaven, we still have columns that are 2024 and not 2025 for the ones that we have to approve in this budget. I mentioned it in the Central Committee meeting, and it is still not corrected. When it comes to the concession agreements on the page of the specifications of it, making up the years, we still have 2023 and 2024. Again, I go back yesterday solely on the reports or the presentations that we received from the honorable ministers, and I will start off with the Ministry of Finance. The Minister of Finance noted that we live in an uncertain world, and that is absolutely correct. We cannot predict the future. But the one thing that we are in control of is what we present, that when we present things, that they are whole and complete. And what I am reviewing with the rest of the members of Parliament is not correction. We did not receive a document with whether it's the Excel. I understand that we cannot print this huge budget again, but normally what we do is when we come into a budget debate, we actually will get the changes made that are very simple changes, and those are not done. But I take note of the fact as well that the minister noted that we're focused on continuity. But when I review some of the presentation from the ministers, there's a lot of new things in there, but we're also talking about the fact that when the ministers came in, they told us the reality of this country. The reality of this country was that things are tight. So when we're talking about continuity, I expect continuity to be there. And just like the Minister of Finance said, I agree with her. It's not bleak, but we have to be realistic in what we are presenting for this current year, because we have to prepare after this year for what's happening with Enya. We also have to prepare for the fact that we urgently need the government to come in and save our utility company that has been mismanaged, or actually the right decisions wasn't taken in order to fix the issues we had. So we're basically going into more debt. That concerns me about the fact of, is there a long-term plan in place, while focusing on the fact that our 2025 year budget is supposed to be a stabilizing budget, but we have new things in there. And the reality is that yesterday, I must point out the fact that the Minister of Justice yesterday mentioned the reality that I was looking for. Because in the last 2 months, if anyone is living and paying attention to what is happening in this country, the two areas for me, if I was a council of ministers, to focus on is to say, you know what? Everyone's complaining about garbage, everyone's complaining about the roads, everyone's complaining about the safety of this country. If you want a successful place, the hardest thing to do right now, knowing that we are a tourism-based economy, the hardest thing right now, and actually the simplest thing, is to have a country that is clean and a country that is safe. And the consistency or the continuity that I would love to see is a council of ministers focused on just that. And if I had to make a decision or give a recommendation to the Council of Ministers, I would say focus on the issues that we are having complaints about. Focus on VROMI. Focus on justice. The Minister of Justice said, I don't have what I need to do the work. The Minister of VROMI also said, we keep fixing roads, but we don't handle the drainage issue, which is correct. So again, it's a budget of continuity, a stabilizing budget, but what I see is a lot of mixed match of a lot of new things happening, but we're not focusing on just maintaining the status quo, dealing with the reality that we need to see how we're gonna, cut a little bit of the expenses, of the frivolous spending, while we're trying to stabilize. But if you're bringing in new things, I don't understand how that happens. So it's a lot of contradictions. It's an absolute lot of contradictions that I know from the time we came in here to do an amended budget of 2024, we were heading in the right direction, because you know what we had to do? We had to take out $32 million of an unrealistic achievable revenue in the short term. But if we started out right, we need to continue on that right path of keeping things realistic. So I'm asking the Council of Ministers to focus on a very, very, very simple formula of keeping our country clean and keeping it safe, because we're a tourism economy. When you want to bring in new people here, remember the fact that that's going to be the complaint from everyone for a tourism-based economy. People talk about the traffic, they talk about the roads, they talk about the cleanliness, they talk about they don't feel safe. And honestly, priority setting, I also heard the word yesterday in the presentations that we're moving away from a silo operation, and what I appreciated hearing is this sort of cooperation happening across the ministries, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine, and that's what we want to do. But at the end of the day, the Council of Ministers needs to come together and say, who's our priority for the year? We're dealing with a new loan for GB. It's going to take a year before the generators are even in. I'm concerned about the fact that the focus is not on the priority urgent issues, which in my opinion, based on the presentation I received yesterday, is absolutely very much VROMI and justice. I continue. Hang on, I need a little bit of water, sorry. My question to the ministers, to make sure that it is very clear, is will you provide an amendment to the budget correcting the errors of 2024 to 2025. The only amendments that we received was from the Ministry of Education. If I am incorrect, someone can correct me during the course of this debate during the day. I take note of the fact that it was mentioned that the government will negotiate a debt swap with the Netherlands to talk about green energy, to move forward with green energy. But what I would like to know is the correlation of how that's going to be manageable within this year, if that's even on the books, considering the loan that we just took for diesel generators. Again, I will mention on page 82 of the Verleende concessies on the concessions from government-owned entities, I have nothing for any government-owned companies in 2025. And I will bring a little bit more attention of it to the issues that I have with columns not being correct in a budget. If we agreed on salary increases, for instance, for civil servants for 2025, they won't get it because the 2024 stuff is in there. And how would you expect people to actually take action on a column if it's not the correct column, if it's not the correct header on it? Because they can take any 2024, it'll be eeny, meeny, miny, moe of which one to do. It's a very simple thing, but it has a very big impact on the accuracy of the numbers that we're reviewing. I take note of the fact that the Prime Minister talked about BTP taking the lead on negotiating what relief can come to the people. And I actually acknowledge the fact that I'm happy that that is being done. My concern with that, with BTP, is the fact that, in my experience, BTP didn't really follow through on the priorities or the responsibilities when it came to tell them. Like, things was not reported. It was not reported in a timely manner. So my concern is that it's not gonna, no one's watching BTP or have expectations of BTP. So I would love to hear from the Prime Minister, what exactly are we to expect from BTP? Because I have experience with them of not following through. And I know that there was some management changes in BTP, but I really want to understand how that works. And the reason I'm saying that is because I have mentioned with the minister, with Prime Minister, on the floor of Parliament, that we're incurring additional loans with GB that the government is going to take for the generators. And the stuff that happened at GB hasn't changed. So we're not holding the supervisory board accountable. We're not holding management accountable. We have management coming with no deliverables. And that is the responsibility of the Council of Ministers, is to hold everyone in line accountable the same way how we here, all 15 of us, have to hold the Council of Ministers accountable for the job that you're doing. But I need to hear something a little bit more that gives me more confidence of what exactly BTP will be doing in their role. Because I know that the Prime Minister and the ministers can't do everything alone, but BTP, are they experienced to do what you need them to do? Do they have the right, I guess, knowledge to do the work of even becoming a regulator? Because that has been the plan in the past for BTP to regulate energy. I just need to know what's coming from it. I have a brief question for the Minister of TEAT, because when we are told that we have a budget of continuity, a stabilizing budget, I also take note of the fact that I saw various projects that had already been ongoing from the Ministry of TEAT, but I want to have a little bit of comfort that if we're doing continuity, that we're very careful of maybe over-promising and under-delivering, because of the fact that, as the Minister of TEAT knows, because I've mentioned this to her about Heineken Regatta, are we okay with our regular festivities taking place like Heineken Regatta, like the Carnival? That's what I didn't see. I saw new things, I saw new plans, but I will remind everyone that this government is dealing, like they told us last year, with a tight budget. we had to make adjustments to this budget that cut 32 million. But what are we actively doing as a whole, and I'm talking Council of Ministers and members of Parliament, to make sure that we are cutting the stuff that maybe is considered luxury right now? Because at this point in my career where I am, it reminds me of COVID days, when the only people that were allowed to travel was actually the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister to sign off on loans that we needed to actually have the subsidies and to be able to survive COVID. So I want to know what's active about it, because we can't continue as is, because when the government was installed, they informed us we have no money. That's all I want to have reality happening here in an accurate budget, that everyone can get on board with the fact that 2025 is going to be a very hard year. But like the Minister of Finance said, it's not bleak. There is some hope because we have plans. I just need accurate information coming to me. That's it. I will mention, again, the Minister of Justice yesterday had a very, very honest, a brutally honest presentation when, if I may paraphrase, said, how do we expect, I'm gonna paraphrase because the way I interpreted it was, how do we expect our country to be safe if we don't even have the tools we need to keep our country safe? Which means when you look at the report that we received, we're literally almost over 40% understaffed in our justice system. And I'm talking about our police. So not only are they underpaid, but we're understaffed. So again, it goes back to my suggestion of maybe the Council of Ministers should come together and focus on priorities. I understand, I'm not saying to take money from different ministries, focus on helping each other out with simple things, because when the country is safe, tourists will come. Teat will be good. When the country is clean and the roads are good, tourists will come. That's the thing, that's the link, that's how it works in my head. I will acknowledge the fact that when the Minister of VSA spoke yesterday, at first I thought, it was very little coming. And what I saw from it was, well, it's little because we have a tight budget, right? We're constrained. How can we move forward? How can we do anything? But what the Minister of VSA did yesterday that I didn't see from everyone else is the fact that in order for you to be successful at your job, Minister, the Minister needs his staff. And he's empowering his staff that has been, kind of ignored for a long time. They haven't been able to have the tools they need to do their job. So I commend the Minister on that. But again, the Minister knows my concern is the fact that we have a societal issue where people are hurting, where there's a heavy reliance on assistance from the government, on understand, whether that is for mental health, whether that's for safe haven, whether that is for PP cards, where we all know there's a lot of money going in there. So how do I see the light at the end of the tunnel with the societal, the socioeconomic issues we have on this country? I'm going to save the rest for later. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP De Wever, for your contribution to the discussion on the draft budget 2025. The next MP up to speak is MP La Cruz, who I invite to take the floor.
A blessed morning, Madam Chair Lady, thank you. A blessed morning to the Council of Ministers, your support staff, those in the tribute, my fellow colleagues, and all those on social media, YouTube, listening to this very important meeting today. Madam Chair Lady, I'm starting to wonder if 90 minutes is going to be enough, but I'll try. I have a couple questions. Looking at the budget itself, watching the report from CFT, I came to another conclusion that I was not going to focus on the numbers because I keep getting new numbers every day. So I said, you know what, let's focus on everything else and we'll see where we get. To the Minister, through you, Madam Chair Lady of ECYS, Minister, in the last 10 years, what's the average amount of students traveling to the Netherlands on that one flight that we call, you know, that students' flight? Eventually, after answering all these questions, you will understand the direction that I'm going and why it is important, especially with the numbers that I saw in your presentation yesterday. What's the role of the St. Maarten House, other than just a welcome speech, when it relates to our students in St. Maarten, in the Netherlands? Could I get a uitdraai from their responsibilities? Like I mentioned in the CC, we have a problem with housing. I saw that the minister promised to move quick on it and try to find suggestions. But from the Minister of Finance, I understood that it had to come from, someone had to come with a plan. And I think that plan should come from the St. Maarten House. But again, I may be wrong. That's why I asked for the responsibilities of the St. Maarten House in the Netherlands. Minister, can you provide the passing rate of the students from the years 2010, 2020, 2021, 2022, 23, and 24, from the students that got a scholarship from St. Maarten and left to the US, Canada, the Netherlands? Through you, Madam Chairlady, to the Minister, is there an MOU with the Miami Justice Academy? Or are we just paying the regular rates? Does the Minister have any plans to expand more MOUs with other universities in the US, especially in Miami? A lot of parents are asking about this. So expansion, a little more than just Tallahassee and neighboring. Madam Chairlady, I saw that the budget was cut. And my question is this, and does this have to do with studying in the region? And what is considered a region? Because as far as I understood, this project started, and it was, I don't know if it was an instruction, but a suggestion from the Netherlands, encouraging students to study more here, which also helped the university here. Can you share with us the amount of persons that received funding from this project to study at the USM, the United States, or elsewhere in the Caribbean? Is this study in the region scholarship still available to students who did not qualify for the regular study financing program? And if not, which efforts are being made to revisit discussions to tap into extra forms of financial assistance to our study financing program? Madam Chairlady, the problem that we've had is simple. Our kids are taken from a small island, a Caribbean island, and thrown in an ocean and left to swim alone in the Netherlands with almost no one to guide them. Financial responsibilities with our students is not the best, and we all could agree to that. The possibility of literally dropping out or receiving a bindend advies to leave and still pick up and study something else is easy in the Netherlands comparing to the US. So it is somewhat worrisome to me when I see that studying in the region, scholarship budget has been cut. I would have thought the quicker we could get you could get your students adjust to that level, 1 year, 2 years, and associates here in our university, here in the region, the easier they would have it in the US or in the Netherlands after. Then, Madam Chair Lady, through you, the list of priority studies. I saw that there is a list of priority studies that would help students when making their choice. But would it be in line with the professions that St. Maarten will need in short and long term? And how is that determined? I have the list here before me. And I wonder, I am a businessman, and I have requested 3-4 times a work permit for a foreigner to come in. Is this profession placed on that list? That is the question. When was the last time that such a list was prepared or updated to meet our present situation? And maybe this question is more to the Minister of Justice, but that information is extremely important for the Ministry of ECYS when making this list. How many work permits have been requested in 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and for what professions? In this way, the minister can literally pay attention to that list. Then, Madam Chair Lady, the list of preferred educational institutes. Can you provide a list of preferred educational institutions, and please include those which there is presently an MOU with? Is it the minister's intention, after reviewing the list, to expand it to include other schools in the US, Canada? Please elucidate on your plan forward with this. With a new study financing application period approaching soon, has any consideration been given to renewing expired MOUs and or signing some new ones with universities? The reason for asking the numbers on graduates is important. Madam Chair Lady, I understood that there's a law that is being worked on that should hopefully come to Parliament sometime this year. And it's the law on the hair of students and hairstyles. And I am extremely excited to see that reach, because it will be a very hefty discussion. Madam Chair Lady, to you, to the Minister of ECYS, how many employees of the Ministry of ECYS are currently on aanloopschaal? And what is your plan to deal with this? With the new schools being built, what is the plan to recruit specialized teachers to teach the schools, considering that we have a shortage of teachers? And that is not only St. Maarten, that is worldwide. Does the government anticipate having enough budget to hire the new professionals required for the schools? Are there any promotions going on with study financing to encourage students to pursue education as a major or maybe even a minor? What are the plans? And in our previous meetings, I mentioned it. I said to you, Madam Chair Lady, if we grab just our government-owned companies and ask them to create a system that kids that are interested in that field could come in and do a stage. Once they have experienced the work field as is, it is easier for them to eventually leave and finish the studies and not get there and then figure out what actually the job is about. The following questions, Madam Chair Lady, are pertaining to the Charlotte Brookson Academy. Question to the Minister. The idea behind the school, as I understood, it was a school that was created to enhance the students that were good and, could dance, play ball, encourage that stream. The minister could look in and see if that was actually the truth. But the question is, in your opinion, is the school following that initial goal, in your opinion? I understood that the school has some problems. Was the school always intended to do CXC? My opinion in that sense, a school like that should have been doing GED. But again, I might be wrong. Do we have a complete board at that school? Has a new principal or school manager been hired? What are the passing percentages of that school? Could you please provide to Parliament the amount of kids that are registered at that school for this school year, 24 and 25? When last was that board of that school evaluated? Please provide that evaluation report. I understood that the school is understaffed. Are there any plans to handle that situation? Does the school have any coordinators, counselors? What is the ratio from students to counselor? Because I heard of a new building being built, but that is exactly the problem that we have. We're going to build a building with a specific purpose, but we're not equipped to set that up. Makes me think about the library. Just came to me. The building should be commencing soon. I've heard many times. How much librarians do we have? How much certified librarians do we have? Because I would have chosen right now to look at those that are working there and send them on courses, upgrade them. Again, regarding the 572,404 guilders cut to the scholarship fund, could you clarify if this was a cut in relation to studying within the region project? Is studying within the region still a possibility? Are scholarships given to USM and NEPA? And if so, where can one find that information? In the Central Committee meeting, I asked about the 522,000 guilders cut in capital investments for the ICT hardware and software by the Department of Education. And the response was there was no cut. However, please explain page 41 of the Getale book. In capital investments, under the Department Education budget, post 6110-01120. So I can understand how the minister can say that there was no cut to ICT software for the Department of Education. Then, have all the teachers been paid that 2% indexation? Following questions. Where is the budget? Where in the budget can I see? Where in the budget is specially needs a priority? How much is allocated? For special needs, how much is allocated for special needs? Then, concerning NEPA, I saw in the presentation some expansion will be done. But again, what is the basis for this expansion? How many students are enrolled? Please motivate. Madam Chairlady, through you, is it possible for collaboration between NEPA and government to educate or re-educate the unemployed or those that are collecting financial assistance from government? I know in the Netherlands, once you request uitkering, you have to prove that you're applying for jobs or that you're trying to upgrade yourself in one manner or the other. So I think the NEPA can be used in that form, where we could use those monies then for something else. Madam Chairlady, to you, my last to the Minister of ECYS, Our foster kids are falling through the crack, and especially when they're 18. So if the minister could put on her thinking hat and see where and how we could help those kids. And again, maybe using NEPA. That was for the Minister of ECYS. I will move on now, Madam Chair Lady, to the Minister of TIAT. When it relates to price control on the basket of goods, the system was placed that those who brought in the goods would show how much they paid for the goods. A percentage would be added as profit for the company. Please take a look at the prices and the increase of the prices in the last 10 years for the same goods that are mainly used by the people of St. Maarten. Question 1, please provide a list of the prices of the control items and the list in the last 10 years. Please provide the list and the prices for the building materials during emergencies. Every year, a list should come out in case of an emergency. These are the prices that our warehouses should maximum be able to ask for 2x4s, plywood. I did not see that this year. Going back to the point of the prices and the percentage added on top of it, this question: what if the goods were bought from a company that they also own in another country? Are we checking that? Because if I own a company in Miami and I buy from my company in Miami using my company here, the invoice that I get is whatever I want it to be. So the profit margins are even bigger. Does the ministry have an idea or the will to control the prices of the shipping fees, seeing that throughput fees continue to rise and is determined by a small group here on the island? My following questions concerning the Department of DEL, Department of Economic Licensing. And I've mentioned this numerous times, that the problem in the department is manpower, knowledge, and just the will to finalize things in a timely manner. How many business directors, operation, vending permit licenses were pending when the minister came into office? How many businesses, how many business directors, operation, vending permits, licenses, requests are pending that were submitted from that date till now? What is the turnaround time per request type? And where is the hold-up in the ministry? When I was there, we had a discussion, and it should have been worked on, when it came to operation licenses, putting a multidisciplinary team together from VRAMI, VSA, TIAT, that they would, in one shot, visit an establishment and give all the reports in one shot. That way it won't take 6 months to a year. Has anyone followed up on that idea? And I asked the same question during the CC meeting. How much has the country lost if a request was in from January and until today, it is still not out? The business can't open, no fees can be collected, and according to the Minister of Finance, our main source of income is taxes and wage tax. Every year, the Minister of VRAMI allocates designated areas, and the Minister of TIAT assigns 21-day permits for those that are not in the festival village. Has that been done already? And is the plan still in place to make sure that no shacks are built? But it looks decent. And most of those that are used to doing this know already and have received the document of how it should look. I went into the system and I looked the possibility to request an operation license as of yesterday on the Public Service Center online is only possible on the 24th of March, 2025. Something is wrong. Please help me understand how it could be possible that appointments for other services conducted by the same people at the same window can be done within 1 week, scheduled within 1 week, but others take this long. So I think, and I don't want to speak for the system, that specific days or times are scheduled for specific requests, but that doesn't work. So that is something that needs to be revised. Madam Chair, Lady, through you, to the Minister of TIAT, when it concerns the inspection department. And we all know that the department has been struggling with manpower, drive, and to say the least, just motivation for the last few years. So that is not something new. Question: how many have been employed in the last year per department in the inspection versus how many have gone on pension? What positions are still open? And have they been made public? How many fines were properly executed and have been finalized with payments from that department? The department has now iPads, I think for the last 2 years. And one of the ideas was simply to make sure that they have a Excel sheet with the business name, the dates of their inspection, the date of any documents, and what date those documents will no longer be valid. That will make it a lot easier when the inspectors go out that they know exactly which companies to go to and which companies makes no sense going to asking for the same documents over and over. Has that been done? When talking about the driving exams, right now it takes 2 weeks just to be able to make an appointment to pay for your driver's exams. Do we really want money, government? Has the driving exam or the written driving exam, has it ever been scrutinized by our professionals? So I'm referring to those that we have that do the exams, give the classes, because it's starting to feel like a business, just like in the Netherlands. You're bound to fail. Most of the instructors have no knowledge of what the exam looks like because it's on computer. Madam Chairlady, a couple weeks ago, I was asked to sit in to an evaluation with the course that is given, the entrepreneurship course from Q Credits as an evaluator. And I met a young man that, due to once being ill with meningitis, ended up being deaf. And he brought an idea of a business forth. But he had one plea: why can't I get a driver's license? So I started looking online, and I saw that in other places in the world that is possible. You could modify your car for all kinds of things. So is this maybe an idea for the ministry to expand? Madam Chairlady, through you to the minister, how many supermarkets have been controlled, and how many times in the year have this resulted positively? Control on prices. How many complaints has the ministry received from citizens concerning prices in supermarkets? How far is the head of inspections with the new transport authority? This was a plan that was being worked on for, I know, definitely more than a year. Is this still ongoing, or has this been shelved? How many casino controllers do we have at this moment? And what is actually the duty of a casino controller? Madam Chairlady, through you to the minister, please ask the department to provide you with the list of names of locals and how many times they have visited the casino per month, which I believe this was their main task. Is it being done? Please provide to the minister, because that's nothing that, that we would actually need. It is just that the minister knows how many have actually been banned from the casinos for visiting more than 6 times a month. Has there been any follow-up concerning the broadening of the inspection on vehicles on St. Maarten? When will trailer trucks be able to be properly inspected? Because God forbid a trailer come down Colby Hill without brakes. Then, Madam Chair Lady, I like to call this the elephant in the room. And I saw yesterday that an article came out concerning public transport. So I have a few questions. It's been over a year that the previous Minister of TIAT released in the Landsverordening the new policy on public transport and help drivers. How many help drivers have received a permit in your tender? I saw the minister mention that there was a new policy coming out. I'd like to see that, because the request, the publication that came out stipulated exactly how, when, and under what conditions one could receive a permit, but also how the cleanup was planned. And I say that to say this: what is the plan of the minister when it relates to the law that once a permit is not active for 6 months, that it should be canceled? Can the minister give Parliament an update on all investigations on public transport, seeing that numerous times here and outside of here, my name was called? So I'd like that cleared up. Madam Chair Lady, through you to the minister, I'd like an explanation of what exactly the problem is with the St. Maarten Taxi app. What are her challenges? And why are the individuals extremely annoyed on the way it is going? Because when I looked at it and I see an app that all it is doing, it is facilitating anyone that wants to actually use a taxi. And it's only licensed taxi drivers. I don't understand what the problem is, but maybe the minister could explain. Because I suddenly saw and heard that everyone has an idea to come with an app like that. I'm curious to know how government would get something like that done. Because as far as I know, government can't collect from a third party. Otherwise, the Airbnb app would actually be also charged. Maritime. Some time back, we registered our first ship. I think, if I'm not wrong, it's under 500 tons. Is there any promotions to do more of that, seeing that it is easy money for the coffers? Madam Chair Lady, through you to the minister, why are all ferries that go to Anguilla from Anguilla? Why are locals Why is it not possible that locals could do that? Then, Madam Chair Lady, the problem with lottery and lottery games is simple, because according to the Landsverordening law today, all lotteries sold on St. Maarten need to be drawn here on St. Maarten and controlled by the Oversight Committee. Every draw, every game costs 12,500 guilders a month. I've counted over 21 illegal games on the island. Do the maths. That's over $3 million a year just in license fees. And that is apart from the supervision of the 2 members of the Oversight Committee and the fees that we've lost to that, and possibilities for employment. Madam Chair Lady, through you to the Minister, can you provide Parliament with an oversight of the status of the Oversight Committee, Lottery Oversight Committee? That is it for my questions for the Minister of TIAT. For the Minister of Justice, well, civil servants who left the Justice Ministry and that are owed monies, when can they expect to be paid? There was a covenant signed by the CCSU and the ministry that they would be paid in phases. Unfortunately, the time for that has passed. So when can they expect to receive that and negotiate their LBAs? Because I saw in the presentation of the Minister of Finance yesterday, there was a redundancy pay for ex-authority column that went from 754,035 guilders in 2024 to 105,468 in 2025. Will that cover the justice also, or is that only for finance? I didn't see that in the presentation from the Minister of Justice. To you, Madam Chair Lady, there are hundreds of cars behind the government building, old wrecks between Telem and the government building. Any plans with that? Either to be auctioned off, government could use that revenue. I don't know if legally that is possible, or that they have to be destroyed, but it's a sore to the eyes. Then, Madam Chair Lady, something that I thought about a little over 2 years ago and started asking questions, but very tiptoe about it. Are there any plans to purchase container scanners to be placed up at the harbor? If not, please look into that and the prices of purchasing such and its operation versus what it is costing the country with everything related to robberies, guns, violent murders, drugs, and a high demand for a bigger turning point on St. Maarten. Mental health issues, drug abuse of our young men, and the situation at the Point Blanche House of Detention. It must be coming in somewhere and somehow. I think if you put the scale, what we're going to spend on the scanners versus what we're spending on the consequences of not paying attention to this. Concerning immigration, I got a call from someone awaiting since February for his permanent residency documents. Since February. The problem with this, Madam Chair, through you to the Minister, is that these people, for example, cannot be insured because their documents are not in order. That's a problem. And I understood from the presentation that it's more or less 4 months, but this is a year. And is there no legal duty to reply within a specific time? And Madam Chair Lady, the previous Minister of Justice mentioned and even campaigned on the fact that we would all give our children born in St. Maarten amnesty. He was working on that. Could you please provide an update on that plan? And I hope that you understand the importance of something like that, as it would solve a lot of problems. Even up at the House of Detention, there's someone now that needs to travel and can't because he has no documents while being born here. Then I'm looking forward to hearing from the chair lady of the Finance Committee on the day that the meeting will be held, so we could brainstorm concerning what is going on up in the prison. But one of the things that dawned me while we were up there, and I don't think that we need a new prison to deal with that, is that in the butcher shop, the scent of feces, because it is directly connected to the septic, there's one pipe that comes out, is right in there. And while we were there was meat that was put outside to literally be cooked the next day. Then, Madam Chair, through you, the rest questions that I have concerning the House of Detention, I'm going to leave them so we could have that meeting and brainstorm. To the Minister of VSR, Minister, what are your plans concerning the EHAS? Because if there's one place doing it and we had a problem with that, why don't we expand? Make the possibility for 4 or 5 different doctors to be able to do this. Thank you for the information on the elderly home. I got that. Next question concerning the financial situation at SZV. Can you explain in detail the current financial situation of SZV? What specific actions are being implemented to address the budget deficits and ensure SZV's sustainability? Are there accountability measures in place for those responsible for this situation? Yeah. I think St. Maarten is the only place where a CFO during his tender, so it's either he rang the bell but didn't say anything, or no one did anything, or he didn't ring the bell, or he couldn't even see that the bell needed to be rung, and that he is now in the direction of being the interim director. I don't understand. So maybe the minister could explain. Something very alarming. Last week, Friday, we had a third form class here. And even the third form class, one of them mentioned the alarming increase of mental health issues in our community. What tangible initiatives does the Ministry of VSR and SFV, what are their plans to combat this crisis? Do they have enough resources, facilities, specialists available, or is this being neglected? It almost seems like on a weekly basis, I'm seeing a new face on the street, at a bus stop, or just walking. Then, could the minister give us an update on the National Healthcare Program, NHI. Could the minister give us an update on the project at the hospital? Because I've heard of all the delays, but what is the latest financial status of the project? Is it still on plan to be completed when it was promised within that time frame? Are funds being allocated transparently? And how can the minister ensure that there's no misuse of these funds? I mentioned it in the CC. Foreign workers for the hospital project. After FENSO secured contracts with the local companies for the hospital, why did the Ministry of VSR approve the hiring of 40 foreign workers, sidelining local contractors? Was this decision in violation of the agreements? What steps are being taken to rectify this and prioritize our local workers? Then, Madam Chair, through you to the minister, when it relates to undocumented workers in our labor market, it is possible for someone that is not legally registered on the island to still go and register at SZV. The high number of undocumented workers contributes to an informal economy, depriving SZV of significant income. What is the ministry's immediate plan to regulate these workers, issue permits, and ensure they contribute to SZV's revenues? And will measures be taken against the businesses employing them illegally? While I think I understood sometime last year, the year before, that there was a possibility for the business to just come in and register these people. So why has it not been done? Why is this so high? Is there a contingency plan for SZV? Because as far as I understood, the financial situation is deteriorating. And again, I saw on the list healthcare workers from education. So I'm glad for that. Public awareness campaigns. What campaigns has the ministry launched to raise awareness about mental health, Alzheimer's, dementia? How does the ministry plan to reduce the stigma and encourage early intervention in these cases? Hospital equipment and staffing. Beyond the construction, how is the ministry planning to staff and equip the hospital? Are there sufficient budgets and recruitment plans to ensure it is fully operational once completed? Also, could the minister give us an update on the situation we had some time back with the Hilton? The minister said that an investigation has been launched. So could you please update us on that? Then ministerial accountability. Minister, do you take personal responsibility for the challenges within SZV, the healthcare system, and the labor market? What assurances can you provide to Parliament and the public that these issues will be resolved under your leadership? Those are my questions for the Minister of VSR. Minister of Finance, could you please provide Parliament with the total cost in this last year for court fees? Cases won and cases lost by government. Minister, do we have an overview of the unsettled claims and bills of works done by companies for government per ministry? Please provide. I've not seen these numbers integrated in the budget. Are there any plans to pay? Because the tax office definitely ain't giving them a break, breathing down the neck. But it's somewhat difficult if the tax office charging me, but you owe me, I can't pay. So the other day, I got a fine. And then I started asking myself, how does government ensure that fines are being paid? So I asked around, and then I heard that there were people that haven't paid fines in years. So does government have an idea on how to do that? And I think for fines concerning vehicles, that is simple. Attach that fine to the number plate. You can't pick up your new sticker, your plate, if you don't pay the fines that are due. That way, the fines will be paid at the receiver's office and not at the prosecutor's office. Then, Madam Chair, to you, to the Minister of Finance, when a request goes in this case, for example, for a business license, the processing fee is 10% of what it actually costs. Maybe it's an idea to charge the full 100%. The responsibility then will lie within government to execute and get that license out in a reasonable time. But at least we'll have more monies to hire more people to get the job done. Last I heard concerning the banking law was that it was at Central Bank and something had to come back. Could the minister give us an update on that? And I mentioned, Madam Chair Lady, through you to the minister, the problem with the banks or the supermarkets with the, once you're paying with a card, that they're asking for minimum. I saw that there was a full campaign from the banks that came out, and some supermarkets stopped, and others now have adapted a new trick, which is called machine not working. But if you pick up enough groceries, it will work. I hope the minister realizes that this is also a way of paying less TOT, because it's cash. The minister mentioned the taxation of gambling winnings as a key component of a broader tax improvement initiatives. Can she further elaborate on this and what will be done in 2025 to achieve her vision on taxation on gambling winnings? And maybe we will see this in the amended budget 2025. I've heard numerous times that sin tax will not work on the Dutch side because of the open borders with the French side. So my question to the government, was anyone consulted concerning the legalization of CBD or anything else from the French side? When the French side wants to do something, they do it. They don't consult with us. So I hope that we could get sin tax running sooner than later. Then, Madam Chair Lady, we're talking about a budget and we're talking about monies that we need on the island, okay? Today, Icon of the Seas is at our ports. Minister, do you have an idea of what we could have gotten in our coffers today if Icon of the Seas could have been able to plug into our grid? At 67,500 kilowatts per hour, we're talking about 33,750 US dollars per hour, 11 hours here. A smaller ship like Costa Fortuna that consumes about 1 kilowatt per hour per cabin. A total of 1,354 cabins for 11 and a half hours here. What would that mean? Minister, if you don't know exactly how to do that calculations, you could ask GB. They would tell you. And I've mentioned numerous times that I even decided, I said, you know what? Maybe it's something that will happen in another lifetime. So I kind of stepped back from it. And then in one of our trips to Parlatino, we had a very interesting conversation with a member of parliament from Aruba. And he said, our whole web, which is the GBE, will be 100% LNG. He mentioned that a specific location at the Old Lago refinery is being created for refueling of LNG, and how much money that will bring to his country. And what was more alarming was the fact that he said that Royal Caribbean is a partner. I was like, what? But then I know the operator's modus. Same thing with the marketplace. We're going to donate, but please don't make it public. But again, Minister, you could ask members of parliament that were there and heard it firsthand themselves. Then, Madam Chair Lady, to the Minister of Finance, my last question regarding the CFT report. It states St. Maarten is working on a plan to compensate the realized deficits of previous years. The CFT requests that you submit this plan as soon as possible. Once it is finalized, can Parliament also receive a copy of that plan? Then, Madam Chair Lady, how much more time do I have?
You have until 12:05, MP.
Then, Madam Chair Lady, to the Minister of Rami, and I'm extremely happy my colleague MP De Weaver mentioned it, because you've heard it from me numerous times. Garbage, 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 garbage. Literally feel like we're living in a pig pen. So, Madam Chair Lady, through you to the Minister of Rami, what exactly is the issue with the garbage haulers? What is the problem? Please explain so that I could understand that it's not government. Because what I am told by the guys on the truck, we ask government for more drums. We ask government for more bins, and nothing happens. In the last 2-3 weeks, the garbage on the boardwalk is crazy. And I know the minister saw it. What is the plan? I also ask if there are any plans or any repercussions for the companies, the haulers that are not picking up the garbage. Minister, do we have a shortage of bins? Is that a fact? And what is the plan to rectify that? I also see, and let's forget who did it, okay? Let's look at the purpose of the benches on Front Street, and let's remember who paid for them. It's the taxpayers' monies. What is being done about the benches that are damaged, or businesses that take them, move them on the side so that they could still park on the curb? What is the plan with that? Minister, when is the plan for the next cleanup of old wrecks? Like I've mentioned before, shouldn't be too difficult. Every car has a VIN number, and it should have been registered at some point, and we'll know who it belongs to. Then I saw an article came out with a master plan for Phillipsburg from the Minister of TIAT. But the sidewalks on Front Street, around the trees especially, that needs some care now. Tourists are tripping and falling. And I remember some time back, the Minister of TIAT and Vrami made a little run on Front Street, Back Street, and the boardwalk, made a list and started working on some of them, but it looks bad again. Then, Madam Chair, Lady, through you to the Minister, I understood that there's some turmoil at the St. Maarten Housing Foundation. Could the Minister give us an update on that? How things are going? What is the plan? Has the board been replenished? Do we have a new director? Can the Minister tell us how much people are registered right now waiting for a government home? And what is his plan when it comes to that? Could the Minister explain the procedure other than just requesting and waiting for infinity? Then, Madam Chair, Lady, in the budget, I did not see any budget available for the Hugh Committee. Why is that? Is the Hugh Committee still active? Again, I think it's going to maybe take the committee of Vrami and the committee of TIAT to sit down with the ministers and come up with ideas to generate funds. Then questions to the Honorable Prime Minister, Madam Chair, Lady, through you, concerning general affairs. How many staff are currently in the P&O department? What is being done to increase retention rate of P&O officers, seeing that several staff resigned within the 2024 year, and it has caused tremendous backlog in the whole government apparatus? And don't get me wrong, it was already a problem in 2023 and 2022, but it is still a problem in 2024, and it's looking like it's going to be a problem in 2025. So could the Prime Minister give us an update on what is his plans with that? What is the turnover rate of government employees leaving the civil service, especially young professionals under the age of 40? What's the average length that the young professionals, returning students, stay in civil service? I hope that sparks a plan. Madam Chairlady, when will the new function table be published? Because the last one I've seen is from 2012, scale 1, today the aim, reflecting even less than minimum wage. Or maybe I didn't get a new one. Civil servants were promised a 2% salary indexation as of January 2025. Will that be in their January salaries? Where's the vacation and vrijstellingsregeling? When is it coming to Parliament for Parliament to approve the increase of 8% for civil servants to get paid in June? Once trade in, scale 1 till 8 goes up to minimum wage, will the others also be carried up? That is a question. Could the minister tell us how much civil servants are literally on that scale today? From 1, schaal 1, trede 1 tot 8. There was a civil servants employee satisfaction group turned council. When are the outputs expected to be completed? Is the SER actually functioning? Feel somewhat misled. Has the decree of the chairman of the SER been signed? Madam Chairlady, to the Prime Minister, under your tenure of less than 8 months, you've managed to lose an SG, 2 department heads, and a number of staff in P&O. In addition to the fact that you do not have a legal affairs. Yet we have not seen vacancies for any of these positions. Is it your intention to continue to burden the staff of general affairs even more? When will these vacancies be put out? I also asked in the CC, and this question was not answered, I asked, why was there a second bidding round for the smart shelter project initiated by PAHO, when local contractors had already submitted their bids since January 2024? And no, Prime Minister, I'm not sweeping it under the chair. I'd like a reply on that. Then in relation to my questions concerning mold, the introduction said that the letter that went out from Parliament was received, the first one with the question, 27 days later. And then my second letter with a reminder, 34 days later. Madam Chairlady, through you to the Prime Minister, please take a look what is going on in DIF. It is impossible for Parliament to be able to function if letters are being held sidelined from members of Parliament. There was an answer that every 2 months, that 2 times a year, the quality of the air in the government building is assessed, could you please give Parliament the last two reports from 2024, the air quality assessment reports? That was reference question number 8 concerning the mold in the building. Then concerning the letter that the Prime Minister sent to Parliament on January the 8th, concerning GB, I have the following questions. Can we be provided with this formal request? The people of St. Maarten, through Parliament, were told that GBE and V were going to pay for the first containers. Can we be provided with the bidding agreement, or at least the lease to purchase agreement? And has this agreement been finalized? As we continue to hear via the media that there has been changes to the original plan. I even think I heard monies came in. It's been asked, or it was asked, to amend the budget 2024 to include the 75.6 million guilders to purchase 39 megawatts engine. Would this not render the 2024 budget null and void, as this gap in funds would also be impossible to cover, and merely amending without substantiating a proper balance? And is this acceptable? Then can you provide the content of the subsidy of the 1.674.400 guilders mentioned, as it's confusing if it goes to government coffers directly or it goes to GB or NRPB? And what is NRPB's role exactly in this whole process? Then in the letter indicated above reference in paragraph 3, as shareholder and policymaker, we hereby acknowledge that Parliament is included in this process. However, the letter presumptuously says that it expects the tender and procurement process. Since the financing is secured, I would like to caution the government to await Parliament's input. As we've done before. Then, Madam Chairlady, a question concerning the census, and this happened to me personally. I looked on the website and I saw census was open from A to Z, and when I went there, I heard they were out on lunch. Kind of disturbing, because some people start working at 8, take lunch at 12, and should be back at work at 1. And if between 12 and 1, the census office itself is closed, then they cannot receive any documents. So I don't know what the plan is with that. And the same thing like TIAT, passport application at the census is available. First available date is the 10th of April, 2025. Then, Madam Chairlady, there is a request in government, also came in here to Parliament, concerning a company that wants to establish here. We've mentioned it many times before. And again, the only thing I'm asking is that the Prime Minister either replies to the company, invites the company to a meeting, hear them out, and see if there are other companies that are interested in bringing LNG to St. Martin, instead of just saying it is too expensive, it is too expensive, it is too expensive. I think we're losing more than we're making and how much we could make. Madam Chair Lady, those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you, MP La Cruz. Members of Parliament, ministers of the Council of Ministers, I am going to advance the lunch break. I had initially indicated that we will break for lunch at 1 p.m. I will put that break now. And thus, we're going to be on a break for 1 hour. We'll return at 1 p.m. and continue with the next speaker, which we don't have listed yet. So I am going to adjourn at this moment until 1 p.m. Meeting adjourned.